everyone, welcome to a lesson in nutritional intervention with protective diet enchiladas is the subject today. And I'm Julie Marie Christensen, and we're broadcasting live from Humana Guidance Center in Naperville, Illinois. Thanks for joining us today. And I want to mention February is Heart Month. How many of you know what Heart Month means? Does anyone know what that means?
For heart protection.
For heart protection.
Heart healthy.
Heart healthy. So everyone's posting like red hearts in the grocery store on certain products that are marketed to be heart healthier products. And what else is going on for Heart Health Month? Besides knowing it's for heart healthiness, has anyone learned anything about how to improve their heart health this month? Have you seen anything on TV? No? So this class is going to be it. I'm going to be your Heart Healthy Month information source. So what Heart Health Month is about is they've put a campaign together to encourage people to take CPR training to help someone in an emergency event. They're having a heart attack. Do you know what to do? Call 911 if you don't know what to do. That's going to be your first plan of attack. But if you can get CPR certified, they offer these classes at your local library. They're usually, a low cost. The fire department usually offers them here in this area. It's also about getting screenings done, your blood tests, being aware of where you stand. Do you have heart disease? Does anyone in this room have heart disease? No? No one has high, does anyone have high cholesterol? Okay. High cholesterol is heart disease, so you do have heart disease. A lot of times when we think heart disease, we think, did I have a heart attack? No, I didn't have a heart attack, so I don't have heart disease. High cholesterol means you have heart disease. You have clogged up plaque on your arteries. You're at risk for a heart attack. Does anyone have high blood pressure? Okay. High blood pressure, that's a symptom of heart disease. These are all very serious symptoms. I had heart disease in my 20s, and today I'm here to tell you that with nutritional intervention, you can reverse your heart disease, not just eat a little healthier. I want to teach you how to eat healthy to reverse disease. So everyone that's here in this room that raised their hand that they have heart disease, or that they have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, has an opportunity to apply what I'm teaching you here today and the support of me going forward. I'm always here to support you in applying this diet and lifestyle to reverse your high blood pressure and your high cholesterol. It happens on a daily basis that people adopt a protective diet, a whole foods plant-based diet, and reverse this disease. They get off of their medication. Now in the grocery store, you're going to see these heart healthy red little hearts. Mm-hmm. And they'll be on products on the shelf, and we're supposed to buy those because those are going to be heart healthier choices. Today in this recipe, I'm going to show you ingredients that actually reverse heart disease. These are not kind of healthier, like those marked items on the shelf still contain oil. They still contain ingredients that break down our endothelium. That's what protects us from 90% of heart attacks, is this protective cell wall layer. So if we eat foods that promote that wall that protects us in all of our arteries, all of our veins, all of our blood vessels, we can protect ourselves and make ourselves heart attack proof. In eating a diet that protects the endothelium, we also promote overall health in the body, because we're not eating anything that's going to break down our endothelium. We're not eating anything that's going to cause type 2 diabetes, cause heart disease progression, or inflammation in the body. So I reversed my heart disease, and I have to mention that 3 years ago this month, it's kind of a coincidence that it happened to fall on Heart Month. I lost my best friend at the age of 40 to a heart attack. Now, she had high blood pressure, and she was being treated by her doctor. She was on medication, just like some of you are here, and she was eating a healthier diet. She wasn't eating a protective diet. She wasn't having a nutritional intervention to reverse her high blood pressure, and unfortunately, in the middle of the night, she had a heart attack and she died. leaving behind 2 young daughters, a newborn baby. So, and me. I was very upset because here I am, a coach and a cooking instructor, and teaching people how to reverse high blood pressure, but she wasn't really that into listening to me. She thought that she didn't have heart disease, she just had elevated blood pressure. That's what I want to make clear before I leave working for Humana, which I'm approaching the end here because I'm moving to California. I want to make sure that everyone that's been joining my classes realizes that high blood pressure and high cholesterol isn't something to live your life with and think that you're going to live out your life long and strong. It's something that we need to address on a daily basis, 3 times a day with every single meal that we eat, because you are way too important to not pay attention to this and make these changes and be here for your friends and family. So moving on a less heavy, serious note, I didn't mean to bring everybody down talking about that story, but my friend Krista has inspired me so much in the past 3 years to bring this to you. So, okay, chilies, red enchiladas, the main ingredient in enchilada sauce. I learned this from one of my students and one of my really good friends, Eve, how to work with dried chilies. The first one we're going to start with is Guajillo Chili. It's spelled Guajillo. And you can get this recipe. It's a free recipe on protectivediet.com. So if you lose your printouts and you want to check it out, it's red enchiladas. And all of the chilies are pictured on this recipe, so you can find them easily in your grocery store. This is one of the chilies used, and we're using 5 of these in this recipe. And when we work with these, I want to give you a little bit of a warning. You may want to put some gloves on. These aren't like super spicy, but on your skin they can be irritating. So if you're not accustomed to working with chilies or jalapenos, I suggest putting on some gloves, because what can happen is the capsaicin, or the spicy part of the chili on the inside, can cause your skin to get really irritated, and maybe when you're going to bed that night, your hands will feel like they're burning, they're hot. So I want you to avoid that. So what you're going to do, I'll also go over the other chili we're using. This is an Ancho chili, spelled A-N-C-H-O, and we're using 2 of these. In Mexico, where enchiladas are enjoyed and created, they use many different chilies. You'll go to your grocery store, check out the Mexican section, and you'll find these little bags of chilies. You can get them in much smaller bags than this. This is the largest one they come in. You can get them like this, and they're hanging in these cellophane bags. Check out your Mexican grocery stores in your area too. If you're not in Chicago, like we're so lucky to have all of these ingredients in our regular grocery store. But if you're in an area, I'm talking to the home viewers that they don't have these in your regular grocery store. Google Mexican market, Mexican grocery store. You're gonna find one. If there's Mexican people in your community, you have a Mexican grocery store with beautiful corn tortillas and dried chilies. So with these chilies, we have 2 of the Ancho and 5 of these. You're going to remove the stem, and then you're going to tear the chili open and get all of these seeds out. The seeds are where the heat is, and there's also this vein. It's like what you'd find inside a jalapeno. If you worked with a jalapeno, that white part, it's very spicy. So we're taking that out because we want the flavor of the chili, but not the heat of the chili. And clear out all the seeds. You can see all of these seeds came out. And just throw those away. You can discard those. And are you choking from the chili?
No, it's just.
That's the other thing I want to warn you. So after you clean out all of these chilies of the seeds, I'll show you one of these. And the chilies should be kind of pliable, almost rubber-like. They're dried, but they're not dried out hard. Remove that stem and that inner part. And if they come off in small little pieces, the first time you try it, it might be shredded up in little pieces. It's fine. Then you're gonna lay these onto a baking sheet, just like this. Or if you have a toaster oven, you could put them on your little toaster oven tray. And you're gonna toast these. If you put them in the oven, turn on your broiler and stay close by, because they toast, and when they toast, it adds a lot of flavor to this sauce. And they go from this red color to, you can see it's darkened. This is the toasted, and they get a little bit dry and crisp. Now, don't walk away from this. The other thing I want to warn you about when toasting chilies, it'll start to smoke. Just as soon as it gets a nice toasted color, when you take this pan out of the oven and it's smoking, hold it away, because it'll take your breath away. I toasted these this morning and made these enchiladas for you this morning, and Jerry was still in bed. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and he started coughing up there. So the smoke from these chilies will rise. So if you have babies or someone sleeping on a second floor, don't toast chilies then, because you'll wake them up short of breath. And if they do smoke and they get away from you and they burn, take them out your front door. Take them outside, let the smoke go. Because that's the only downside to toasting chilies, is it happens fast, and if they burn, that smoke will take your breath away. Now, if they get away from you and they get really, really black, just make sure when you buy chilies, you buy enough that you can toast another set if you burn them, because it happens to the best of us. The other chili we're going to be using in this recipe that goes in the beans, I want to go over this one too. This one is called Arbol, A-R-B-O-L. And I use this in a lot of Protective Diet recipes to spice them up. This chili is totally optional. It comes very red in color. And this one you want to toast right on that tray when you're toasting the other chilies. And we toast them to deepen the flavor, add a smokiness to it. And you can see this is a toasted chili versus an untoasted chili. It's nice and dark in color. And we're going to use a couple of those in the beans that go into the enchiladas, but not in the sauce, just to be clear, so I don't confuse you. So those are the 3 chilies that we're using in this recipe. So the next step, after my chilies come out of the oven, I'm going to put them in a saucepan. And then I'm going to cover them with about 1 inch or 2 of water. Just enough to cover the chilies. That's about 3 cups of water for this size pan, just so that they're submerged. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil on the stovetop and let them boil until they're tender, so that they soften and they're not crispy anymore. And in doing this, the water is going to get nice deep red color. We're going to put it into the blender. So we'll pretend we cooked these. I'm not serving you this one today. Jerry's going to have to eat it, so it's not going to be as good. But to be honest with you, the blender that I'm using, I don't even have to cook these because it's going to blend it into a liquid. So I have 2.5 cups of water from my cooking liquid. So if you're not measuring, you don't have to measure it out. You just cover the chilies with water, then measure 2.5 cups of that water. It's in the directions very clearly into the blender with your chilies. For this, you can use any style of blender. The Blendtec's is going to take care of this a lot quicker than a classic blender, but it will work with the regular blender as long as the chilies are nice and soft. We're putting our blender on high. For about a minute in the Blendtec, little under, it turns off automatically, and you can see you've got this nice red enchilada sauce. And for those of you that have made enchiladas in the past using tomato sauce. There is no tomato sauce in traditional enchiladas. I don't know where that came about except for Americans thinking there was because it's so red in color. When I learned this recipe, my friend told me, she kind of laughed at me when I asked her, what about the tomatoes? And then when she blended the chilies together, I was like, oh. And when I tasted this sauce after it's cooked, right now it's a little bit bitter, but when it cooks in the oven on the enchiladas, it's amazing. The sauce, doesn't get any more authentic than this. So we're gonna pour this into a nice big bowl. I'll let you see. This over so you can see better. And the reason I'm using a wide bowl, I'll show you because we're going to dip the tortillas in there as we make them. Oh, I still have to blend up my beans, I'm sorry. So you don't have to clean your blender. You can leave it with the sauce in here, which is great. It's just going to go into your bean filling. So we have 2 cups. Oh, you know what I did? I made a mistake. No one's keeping an eye on me here. Usually you guys catch me.
The vinegar and oregano.
I forgot to put the vinegar.
Vinegar, yeah.
And the garlic.
Garlic and oregano.
Those would have been the first enchiladas ever.
Oh.
Sea salt.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So let's add this back to the blender. See, these kinds of things happen to me too.
It's Friday the 13th.
It's Friday the 13th.
Oh.
Well, this is a lot better than what could happen, right? Where did the whole Friday the 13th thing start
We were
off?
just talking about that, me and Kristen.
I know the movies, but there must have been some
It's-
old wives' tale with it,
From a
right?
long time ago.
Yeah,
We're talking about Black Cat and
yeah.
Crush Your Path and going under a ladder and.
It was just not as an unlucky day. So, I'm sorry, with the garlic, if you have a high-speed blender like a Vitamix or a Blendtec, you can just put the whole clove in after peeling it. If you do not, I recommend dicing the garlic fine and putting it in, otherwise you'll get a big chunk of garlic in a classic blender. In a classic blender, you could also use a garlic press. And if you are using that garlic that comes in the jar, I want you to really think about what you're eating and switch over to buying garlic as it's designed. It's grown and wrapped up in this little package. And if you feel like you can't get through, this is what's so great about the garlic press. You don't have to touch it. You could just remove the skin off like that, and then it's clean, rinse it off, soap and water. The benefit of using a garlic press is you don't have to touch the garlic and handle it and have garlic fingers, or chop it. So if you're buying garlic and you're finding you're not going through your garlic fast enough, you're obviously not eating a protective diet, because we include garlic in a lot of recipes because of its anti-cancer benefits. There's phytochemicals in this garlic that are so protective. That's why it's a big part of a lot of protective diet recipes, but also because it adds so much flavor. But you can break this clove into these sections, put it in a Ziploc bag, and freeze this in your freezer door or wherever in your freezer so it's handy. And if you have a good garlic press, which I recommend the Susie 2 by Xylus, it's just going to last you a lifetime. I've broken a few garlic presses at cooking lessons in people's homes, so it's always good to have a good sturdy one. Invest in one that'll last you a lifetime. That's what I believe in doing. So then you're just putting it in there frozen and pressing it. I'm just going to put extra garlic in this one. And it'll come out exactly the same way, and you won't be wasting your garlic. Sometimes people say they can't get through it and it gets dehydrated. I buy my garlic in bulk from Costco because I like buying California garlic, and they carry that, and I can freeze it. I usually freeze half of it. Okay, so garlic, and then we're adding 2 teaspoons of dried oregano. Oregano is a very popular ingredient in Mexican cooking. I know we think of oregano, we think Italian, but it's very popular in Mexican cooking. I have a recipe for pozole, which is a pork-based soup that I've eliminated the pork out of. Check out that recipe. They take fresh or dried oregano and sprinkle it on top of their soup. It's lovely. I never had it that way until I tried that soup, and they use it in many different recipes. We have apple cider vinegar, a teaspoon. And then sea salt is optional. We have a half a teaspoon, I believe, of sea salt. A teaspoon of sea salt. You can cut that back if you're cutting down on your sodium intake. Now, this recipe with 1 teaspoon of sea salt makes 10 enchiladas. If you're buying enchilada sauce in the jar at the grocery store, look at the sodium content on that. It's much higher than this is. All of the protective diet recipes, the sodium content is greatly reduced, if not eliminated, compared to a standard diet. And as we practice, we can eliminate it, take it down further and further as our taste buds adjust. Because most people are eating a standard American diet, and then they switch over to a salt-free diet, and nothing tastes good to them. Everything's bland. So I want to meet you in the middle on a low sodium plan, and then we reduce it from there so that you enjoy your food. If you don't enjoy your food, it's not going to be sustainable. So we'll just okay. So thanks for your patience with my mistake. All right. So there's the best enchilada sauce I've ever had in my life. And then, oh, see, I'm skipping the beans. Then we're going to the beans. So we have 2 cans of black beans. You could also use 3 cups of black beans that you cooked from dried if you like to cook your own beans. The difference between using canned beans and cooking your own at home is you can reduce the sodium. Canned beans typically have a lot of sodium in them. You could also use salt-free canned beans and eliminate the sodium. You pay probably at most 20 cents more a serving buying canned beans versus cooking your own at home, but I think that's a great convenience charge. Don't worry about the BPA inside of cans, it's very minimal, and the beans, the antioxidants in the beans actually combat the negative effects of the BPA, which is such a trace amount that I always use canned beans. It's a convenience fee that I pay buying the canned beans. And then in this, we're adding 2 cloves of garlic. Big surprise, more garlic. And if you're not a fan of garlic, if it's something that you have, you know, it's not something you enjoy, you can leave it out or cut it down. It's not going to taste like garlic, it's a background flavor. And then we also have a tablespoon of chopped dried onion. You could also use a small piece of fresh onion if you don't have chopped dried onion. It's just adding a flavor. And then we have a half a teaspoon of sea salt. This is optional. You can add it or leave it out. I'm actually going to cut it back a little bit because I have sodium salt in my canned beans. And then if you're using a high-speed blender, this should blend up just fine. You can add a splash of water to it. You want to keep this as water-free as possible so it's a nice firm bean in your enchilada. But if you're using a classic blender, you might have to add a couple tablespoons of water to get it going.
What about the other chilies?
Oh, the Herbal Chilies. Thank you so much. I'm doing this from memory today. So we toasted up the Herbal Chilies. You can add as many or as little or skip them completely. Jerry and I love spicy food. We trained ourselves to enjoy it because spicy food makes us feel good. It actually produces endorphins just like exercise does. So we like chilies. We're going to add 2 chilies to this.
You can dry your chilies and store them like that ahead of time?
You sure can. If you have a garden and you're growing little red chilies like this or any chilies, you can dry them.
Black color, that means it's bond, or?
The dark color is because I toasted them. They
That
normally,
means it's bond, or not?
No, just toast them. And then toast them.
You're right.
it's browned. Do you mean it's brown?
I mean, when it's smoked, that means it's
It's
bond.
done. Yeah, when it toasts, when it gets darker in color, the Herbal Chilies come like this. They're red in color, and then after you toast them, they get dark.
Dark.
This
But
is-
it's not burned.
It's not burned,
Oh, okay.
burned. I couldn't figure out what
Burned.
word you were saying. I apologize, burned. No, it's not burned.
Okay.
These you can take really dark and they're not gonna have a burned flavor.
Can you grow them in your garden and use those and toast them?
Yes, you can grow these herbal chilies in your garden or red chilies. They're all different varieties. I have to warn you, the ones that I've grown in my garden are way hotter than the herbal chilies. I don't know if it's because they're fresher, I don't know, but you can dry them, just lay them out, they'll dry. Or you could put them in a food dehydrator, a very low oven. There's so many different ways you can dry chilies. To be honest with you, I don't have the time to dry my own chilies, and even the ones that I grew in the garden this year, I didn't take the time to lay them out and dry them, because buying a bag like this, I think it's a couple dollars, and if you can eat through this in the year,
Yeah.
it's cheaper actually to buy them all
Right,
dried
than to
for you
grow.
than the
Here you go.
plant to grow. But it's fun to grow the plants, so I do it. Now, with this blender, if I would have added a little water to it, I wouldn't have had to monkey around with the spatula, because you want to be careful if you're using this high-speed blender that you don't put anything in there, because it will grind it up and then you'll have plastic in your food. But if you didn't want to mess with the spatula, just add a little water before you add the beans to the bottom, like a tablespoon. Start with a small amount, because I want to have my beans as thick as possible in the recipe. And we'll put this into a bowl, just to make it easier. If you were at home doing this, you could just use the beans straight out of the blender. I'm all about less dishes are always better cooking. And when you're cooking, make it easier on yourself and clean up as you go. So if I was at home and I was making this, I'd make my red enchilada sauce first so that I wouldn't have to wash my blender out. And then I'd make my beans. And as I put my beans into this bowl, I would then go and wash my blender out completely so that when I'm done making dinner, I don't have this total disaster area in my kitchen. And a lot of my students, they say, oh, you should see the mess I have when I cook. It's not like your kitchen. Like, I do live broadcasts from my kitchen, a lot of cooking demos. And the thing they're not noticing is even when I'm doing the live broadcasts, I'm rinsing. It's just my nature to always go and rinse my dish out as I'm working. Or if I'm working with a spatula, I would have rinsed off the spatula so then I have it handy to use again. I don't use 5 spatulas or 5 spoons or 5 knives. I use 1 knife. It's my favorite knife. I work with it through the whole recipe.
It's
Just
like a
to make-
refried one, right?
Yeah, so you could use the same recipe as a dip. I call it unfried beans. It's on the website as well. You could bake these tortillas, the corn tortillas, the El Milagros we have in Chicago. We're so lucky to have these. These are the ones I recommend. You could bake these into chips. There's a recipe on the site for baked tortilla chips and dip them in the beans. You could make them into nachos and put lettuce on them. We have a faux sour cream recipe. There's so many options we can do with those beans. We can make it into a 7-layer dip. We have every recipe that goes into those dips. You can layer it up. Okay. So now the other thing we need is 2 cups of frozen corn. It can be still frozen if you're in a hurry, or you can run it under water, let it defrost, or put it in a bowl when you first start making the recipe. By the time you're done, it'll be defrosted. This is going to bake in the oven, so it's okay that it's frozen when you're starting off. And then we also have 2 cups of spinach. Now with the spinach, what I would recommend is you can use it whole like this in the enchiladas, but I would recommend chopping it. It's gonna make it a lot easier to get it into the enchiladas, and you're gonna be able to get more of it into the enchiladas. And if you're serving it to people that don't like spinach, like little kids, they're not gonna even notice it's in there. Now the reason we're including the spinach in the enchiladas is because greens, all leafy greens, promote nitric oxide, which promotes dilation of our blood vessels through the production of nitric oxide. So when we chew greens, they actually produce the nitric oxide, which is a chemical that happens in the body. It's a natural occurrence to dilate our blood vessels. So it improves our blood flow. This is going to improve on high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, eat more greens. This is going to help. Beans we have in the enchiladas, not just because they taste good and they're typical and traditional, but because beans actually, if you incorporate a half a cup of beans, any kind, black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, lentils, it doesn't matter which kind, into your diet per day, just a half a cup for 2 months, studies show you can reduce your cholesterol by 20 points by adding something to your diet, not taking away. I'm suggesting you add the beans and remove the meat, any animal products, remove any dairy products, remove the oil, just like I'm showing you to make this recipe oil-free. And if we do eat an ideal diet for disease reversal, which is all the recipes on Protective Diet, we are going to achieve our ideal body weight. We are going to reverse our heart disease. There's no, you cannot maintain heart disease eating a diet that has no cholesterol, no saturated fat, and no animal products. It's just not possible.
You said you reduced your cholesterol by how many points?
20 points
20.
with an addition of a half a cup. I got that information, it was brought to my attention by Dr. Greger, which is a great resource for videos. It's a wonderful resource. Nutritionfacts.org is Dr. Greger's website. And he brought the study to my attention through one of his videos, and it was 20-point reduction in cholesterol for a half a cup of beans added for a 2-month period. I want you to include beans in your daily diet. And if you're afraid of beans because it causes you to have increased flatulence, you're gassy, start slow. Add a 1/4 cup a day. A half a cup isn't that much. It's 8 spoonfuls. It's a small amount of beans. This is, let's see, this is 6 times the amount that I want you to increase in your diet a day. So basically 2 enchiladas, and you're there. You're doing it. Okay, so we have our corn tortillas, and I'm gonna slip my gloves back on because I'm gonna dip these. I would recommend wearing gloves for this too, especially if you have sensitive skin. So you're taking the corn tortilla and you're dipping it straight into this enchilada sauce and you're coating it. And then you're putting it into your pan. And in doing this, you're coating the bottom of the pan. It's really easy. If you can't see from back there, if you want to come around the side. And then you're going to put a spoonful of beans in there. And then some spinach. And then some corn. You could also do it in the other order if you want the spinach to be held down by the beans. And then you're going to roll this into an enchilada. Just like that. And this can, you saw, all I'm doing is making a sauce, blending up some beans. This can be done in probably 30 minutes. And you could do this in the morning before you went to work. You could do this at night after having eaten dinner already, and then your dinner for the next day is ready to go.
So you would just leave it up in the fridge and
Put it in
bake
the
it when
fridge.
you come home?
Yeah, and if someone else is home before you, tell them, take the enchiladas out of their refrigerator so that they come to room temperature and they'll heat up in 20 minutes.
When the tortillas get soggy, if you leave it that long.
They'll get soggy, but enchiladas are not crispy, so they'll be soft. With this sauce, it's and if your tortillas tear a little bit as you're rolling them, it's going to be delicious. The other way you could do this, if you don't want to bother rolling them, you could layer it like a lasagna, which I think is more challenging to do to spread the thick beans. I think making them is easier. Rolling them. And traditional enchiladas are topped with a lot of cheese. And if you require the cheese, there is a recipe. It's one of the premium recipes, part of the subscription on protectivediet.com, called mozzarella cheese. And you could shred it and top your enchiladas with that. But to be honest with you, I never bother with it. I think these are delicious on their own, just like this, which you'll be able to tell me with the samples today. Jerry, could you ask Kristen to come in and do the samples? You need to get the samples out of the cooler.
Sure.
And she needs plates and forks.
Plates, she kept it there.
Oh,
on that
perfect.
table.
Oh, she's got it all ready for us today.
Julie,
But do
Yes.
you have to bake it, Julie, or not?
Yes, you're gonna bake this 400 degrees for about 20 to 30 minutes until they're heated through. You're
Okay.
not cooking anything, you could eat everything as it is right now. The heating process is going to take a little bit of the bitterness away from the chilies and just bring everything together because you want them hot. The ones I'm serving today, I hope they're still warm. I baked them and took them out of the oven right as we left, so for your samples. And just keep assembling them until you fill the pan. You might want to double this batch. This recipe would be great to freeze or to give a batch to your neighbor. That's always fun, to encourage other people to eat healthy with you. Last week I made green enchiladas, which is another great free recipe. And it's made with a salsa verde sauce. And I made a small pan for each of my neighbors on either side of me. And they loved them, and it was so much fun to share this. And it's very inexpensive. I think I may have spent
I like the core.
$3 or $4 on a whole
Yes.
pan.
If you invited stores around, do they make this enchilada?
Do they make the enchilada?
I mean, if you buy, like, is it the same or depends upon what is inside?
Oh, typically in a traditional enchilada, is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
No, like if you, like the stores around now.
If you go to a store, will you be
So
able to
can
buy
buy
enchiladas like
the store, I
this?
mean, in the fast food. You
Oh,
order enchilada,
that's
do they-
Mexican restaurants serve enchiladas, but they're going to include cheese, they're going to include chicken,
Yeah, I
beef,
just-
there's all different kinds of enchiladas. If you don't like beans, check out, which I encourage you to try more beans, but, because they're so heart healthy.
Beans, I don't mind, I mean.
You don't mind beans? The green enchilada recipe that I have on the website is filled with garlic mashed potatoes. It's delicious.
Everyone's like, high carb, is that better than, I'm trying to de-emphasize carb, but
Right.
it's more of oil now.
A starch-based diet, high-carb diet of complex carbohydrates, tortillas are a whole grain, corn is a whole grain. This is actually gonna help you with your blood sugar as long as you're not eating any fats. So there's no cheese, there's no saturated fat from chicken, which would be typical in enchiladas. I know a lot of times, especially during Heart Health Month, we're being told that chicken is the better choice, that it's lower in saturated fat. It contains a lot of cholesterol, just as much cholesterol as fish or beef. So we need to eliminate all the cholesterol out of our diet. The saturated fat in chicken is lower than in beef, but it's still there. And if we're trying to reverse disease like diabetes or heart disease, we have to cut it out completely. This is nutritional intervention. This is a diet to reverse disease and obtain optimal health, reach your ideal body weight without exercise. This is possible with eating the right foods. So when we simplify our foods, Like with these enchiladas, we're eating very simply. Corn tortillas. These are so inexpensive. You could feed the whole block, like I did with my neighbors on a couple bucks. Beans, very inexpensive. They're under $1 a can. And then we have spinach. You can get that very inexpensively. We have frozen corn. What else do we? The chilies. Chilies are very inexpensive and they're shelf stable. So these are a lot of these things you can have handy in your house. The only fresh ingredients we needed to buy was spinach and the tortillas.
Julie,
Where do you freeze them? You freeze them after you, like this, you make them
Yeah,
up
I
and
put
then
the
you
sauce
freeze
on them and then I'd wrap them up really good. Maybe you have a freezer dish that has a lid. I would wrap it in plastic and then put the lid on it.
this
Yes.
is not a kind of tortillas, flour tortillas.
Could you add like black olives to that or not?
You could add black olives to that. I want you to be aware that olives have a lot of sodium. And if you're buying olives, I want you to look for natural cured olives. They're ones that all they contain is olive, salt, and water. Now, if you're trying to reduce your blood pressure, I would say to avoid the olives right
Well, I
now.
just,
Yeah, you could add any vegetables to this. If you want to add some chopped up zucchini or things like that, it might take a little longer to cook. You could saute onions and cook the zucchini and then add it. I try to make recipes so that they're simple and quick to assemble but still taste delicious. If you want to go crazy and brown up some mushrooms in an oil-free saute, you don't want to use the oil, and put them in there, that'll give it more of a meaty texture. There's all different things you could add. Enchiladas are very commonly assembled with diced potatoes in them. That's a traditional Mexican enchilada. You can put all kinds of
It's
things.
a pretty dish, may I ask? Where'd you get it?
Home Goods. I get all of my housewares at TJ Maxx Home Goods.
Julie,
Great.
Julie,
Gotta love Home Goods.
that's not a tortilla, flour tortilla, right?
No flour tortillas. Those are white flour. They're not whole grain and they contain oil. We're avoiding oil to reverse heart disease.
That's why when you go to the Mexican place, they ask you a choice, if you want flour tortillas or corn tortillas. Or corn. Yes.
Corn, always choose corn.
I use-
When you go out for Mexican food and you want to maintain your nutritional intervention with your diet, you want to sit down and all your friends are going to be digging into those fried tortilla chips. And those fried tortilla chips are hundreds of calories of oil from frying them. Ask your server, say, can I have some fresh hot corn tortillas? And they'll look at you and they'll say, now? Because usually they bring them with dinner. And you'll say, yes, now. I want a dozen fresh corn tortillas. Get a dozen or 6 because your friends are going to want one. They're going to see you eating something healthier and they're going to want one. So then take those fresh corn tortillas and scoop up the salsa that they're scooping up with their fried chips. And you're saving yourself about 1,000 calories in chips just by eating the fresh tortillas. Indulge in the salsa.
It's good.
How are they?
Good, very good.
Are they too spicy for anyone? I'm
No,
sorry if
no,
they're too spicy.
no,
I made the filling really mild for you guys, so I'm hoping that it's good.
There are more too, we can use about half the
What
plate
do you
if
have
you
another
want to.
kind of different,
Come in some
like
more?
tamales show, tamales. I love
Tamales?
tamales.
We're actually working on a recipe of tamales. My neighbor next door, Cindy, and I are going to get together and do a video. So if you go on protectivediet.com, you will soon see a cooking video for
I
tamales.
love that,
They're delicious.
homemade tamales.
So we're gonna make tamales. Tamales traditionally, Mexican tamales are made with lard in the corn, in the masa harina, which is corn flour treated with lime, and they put lard in there. So they're very, very bad for our
That's
hearts.
bad, that's the
Very
hydrogenated
Right.
oil.
But traditionally, they're made with lard. Oil, if we switch the lard out for oil, we're still breaking down our protective cells called the endothelium, and we're still affecting our cholesterol because oil, all oil contains saturated fat.
Even olive oil.
Olive oil is full, it has saturated fat in it. It has less saturated fat than butter. That's why they put that heart on it at the grocery store and tell you on Heart Health Month that it's healthy. It's not going to reverse heart disease. It's going to maintain your heart disease.
The fat you eat is the fat you wear.
Right, and if you're
No matter
obese
where it
and you're
comes from.
struggling with losing body fat, cut the oils out of the diet. We do not consume any oils at all.
How about the vegetable oil spray? It says no cholesterol.
Vegetable oil spray is loaded with chemicals. And if it's olive oil vegetable oil spray, which a lot of vegetable oil sprays will label it as olive oil, so then you're like, oh, this is healthy. Well, that's marketing telling you it's healthy because it still contains saturated fat. Anytime you're consuming saturated fat, you're breaking down those protective cells, your endothelium, that protect you against a heart attack. 90% of heart attacks happen because of a breakdown in that cellular wall that runs through all your blood vessels and your lymph vessels. Coconut oil was the question. What about coconut oil? Coconut oil industry has marketed it as this heart-healthy oil. It's healthier than butter, but it's loaded with saturated fat, even more than olive oil. I will not put one vegetable oil above the other because they're all breaking down our endothelium. So we don't eat any oil. And guess what else we don't do? Spend all the money on the oil. What's the most expensive things you buy at the grocery store? Meat, cheese, oil, and nuts. And sugary snacks. Let's cut those out too. So we're reducing our grocery bill. This meal is very inexpensive. It's well under $5 to assemble this whole dinner for my family. So, and hopefully it's good to you. They're not talking because they're eating.
Good.
Save me a piece. I would add more chilies to that.
More chilies to it? Yes, and you can. If you
Or
want
some
it
hot sauce.
spicier, just add these to your sauce. And yeah, and spice it up. I also cut these out of the filling, the bean filling. This pan, the pan that I served here today, because not everyone.
did this one.
Yeah. So with this pan, the other thing I wanted to show you is. I do here. With this pan, you're going to cover the pan so that they don't get dried out. And I have some baking pans that have a nice glass lid on them. If you have those are wonderful because then you don't have to waste your money on parchment paper and aluminum foil. And it's nicer on the environment. But what I recommend doing is covering your pan with parchment paper and then aluminum, because there are some studies that show aluminum exposure can cause health issues. They're relating aluminum to Alzheimer's. So I just put my piece of parchment paper on top that protects my food from exposure to aluminum. And then I wrap it up. Like that. And if you're not baking them right away, just put them in the fridge or drop them off at your neighbor's house. It's cold out now. You could put that on the step at your neighbor's house for when they
The
get home
paper
from
is
work
like
with a note.
moisture barrier, right?
But then the raccoons would get it.
The raccoons don't come out in the daytime.
After they taste it.
Well, I think they eat the foil and everything.
Yeah, I put pickles outside my neighbor's door on her step, and she didn't know what they were. I'm like, how do you not know what pickles are? But, yeah, it's fun to share things like this. And when you're cooking this way, it's so inexpensive that you can share meals with friends. But you could, if you were gonna make these up, you could leave these in your refrigerator for a couple of days if you weren't gonna bake them the next day, if you wanted to get ahead of yourself. But this is a great recipe to make when you're having friends come over, double the batch, make a bigger pan.
Very
It's
good.
perfect. Well, I'm glad you liked it.
There's another question.
Do you
Yes.
need to refrigerate those Ancho toasted chilies?
No, these can go right into your cabinet. So when I make the arbles, these little red ones, I use them in a lot of different recipes. There's salsa roja, which is a
That's
salsa
that,
recipe.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
These are these little red ones. So when I toast these, I don't toast two for a recipe. If I want to make the beans and just eat that as a dip, I always like to put one or two of these in there. So I don't want to have to toast them every time I blend up a can of beans to eat as dip. So I make a full pan and I keep my eye on them. Don't walk away because they'll burn fast. And then I put them in a jar, I let them cool off. I put them in a jar and I put them in my spice cabinet. Now, anytime I need a toasted chili, I can just reach in there. I do use these Herbal Chilies untoasted in some recipes as well. So those are recipes that maybe you don't want that smoky flavor, you just want heat. So then I keep my batch of chilies in the pantry like this. I actually keep them on a shelf in a jar because we eat these every day.
Have you ever used those instead of the toasted ones in your recipe?
Yes, yes, I'm trying to think of what I use these in. I make a spicy pickle recipe that I use the untoasted
Healthy
one.
honey sauce.
Awesome sauce, which is one of our sauces. It's a hot sauce. Healthy Hottie sauce, which is a free recipe. That's these blended up with garlic and a little bit of salt and some vinegar. It replaces like the typical Asian chili sauces that some people use.
Full of oil.
Full of oil, and it doesn't even list oil on the label. It's because it's an Asian product. Their label laws are different than ours are, and they import them, and they're mostly sold in Asian sections or in Asian grocery stores. So I have my own recipe. It's called Healthy Hottie sauce. I bet you would love it. I think I made it here. You didn't try it? There was some. I made it for some
Maybe
recipe.
we missed that class.
You must have missed
Only
it. Don't
one
miss my
class we
classes.
missed.
It
Maybe
must
you
have
must
been
have
that.
done, yeah.
Because I know a lot of the people that attend my classes here like
He had the
hot
healthy
spicy.
hottie sauce when you did the burgers.
That was the awesome sauce.
Oh.
The healthy hottie sauce, I can't remember what I had it for, but it's thicker. So, and you use just a little bit, but you would love it because
No,
it's
it's
really
veggie.
spicy. So I like it on, I think I might have brought it when I made the Asian style kale. It's a garlic kale dish.
Yeah, we didn't come.
Okay, and I serve it over steamed brown rice. The Asian style kale is a free recipe. Check that one out. It's so heart healthy. It promotes that nitric oxide, reduces your blood pressure, and then I put the Asian style kale on top of brown rice with the healthy hottie sauce, and I mix that in. Oh, it's delicious. It's spicy, flavorful, full of garlic. So,
Can you toast that turkey in the oven?
yes.
Do you get that?
Yes, if you want to make these into baked tostadas, which there's a free recipe for those, top them with the beans and some shredded lettuce. There's dinner for under a couple bucks. You could serve your whole family. And it's a crispy tostada. You could also cut them into fours. And this eliminates the oily fried tortilla chips. Place these on your baking sheet. Bake them at 400 degrees for about 12 to 16 minutes, depending on your oven. Everyone's oven temperatures vary a little bit, so you'll have to test them and make sure they're crispy but not burned. There's that perfect place for these tortilla chips. But we actually are so blessed here in Chicago to have El Milagros. We ship these across the country to our students daily. We're making shipments of how many do we ship out? 14 dozen in a box, and they freeze really well. So my students get them all over the country, and they put them in the freezer in the pack, and they take them out when they want to use them. They work perfectly for chips. But if you're making enchiladas, you want to get these fresh. Don't use pre-frozen tortillas because they will get really flaky. But when you bake the pre-frozen tortillas, they get really puffy and flaky and crunchy. They're delicious. So we're lucky here. We can do an oil-free tortilla chip or tostada really easily here in Chicago. We've traveled all over trying different tortillas, and in San Diego we visited 3 tortillerias because we're going to be moving there, and we haven't found the perfect tortilla yet, but I'm going to find it.
I want organic tortilla, they sell them in stores too.
Organic tortillas, there is an organic corn tortilla that Whole Foods makes. It's 365 brand. It will break your teeth when you bake it. It's no good. These, I've contacted El Milagro, and they confirmed that their corn is non-GMO, but it's not organic. But I think if this is a food that's going to encourage us to eat an oil-free chip, eat it. You're 100 times better off than if you're buying organic fried tortilla chips, which Costco now carries these big bags of organic fried tortilla chips. You're not doing anything healthy to your body if you're eating organic oil. Oil is bad. I don't care how they package it up or market it. It is not heart healthy. It's heart healthier than butter, but I want you to reverse your heart disease, not just maintain it.
It's not
So-
healthier than eating rice?
Tortillas?
Yeah.
If you're eating brown rice or corn tortillas, they're the same because they're both whole grains. If you're eating white rice is like eating white tortillas. So try the brown rice, see if you like it. If you don't like the brown rice, eat the white rice, but don't put the oil on it.
So they sell it like that, brown corn in store? The brown
Corn, yes.
corn.
This is at your Jewel, at any of your grocery stores here in the Chicagoland area. And they deliver them fresh daily. So if you get there early enough, you'll get them hot.
Wow.
They're delicious to eat on the way home in the car, just plain.
I do brown rice with brown sweet rice because the brown rice is too hard.
That's fine. That's fine. It's a whole grain of rice, any type.
But white rice is also healthy, you think, Julie?
White rice is not going to promote health. It's just empty calories. It's going to give you energy, but it's not the best choice. I would prefer you chose a brown rice. There's so many different kinds of brown rice. Try the jasmine brown rice. It's a different grain. Try the short grain brown rice. That's my favorite. You've probably had it here at one of my classes. The long grain brown rice. And pick one.
Basmati, yeah, Indians, they use
Yes,
basmati.
yes. So try that in brown form and see if you can
How about
start to-
quinoa, purple or red
Quinoa's
rice?
great.
No, what about, excuse me, if you were saying an oil-free diet, so are you saying that we don't need oil, or are we getting oil from some of the foods naturally?
That's a great question.
Which foods?
Totally oil-free diet. You're not adding any
Well,
oils.
not adding any, but in the foods
Corn
body
tortillas.
has,
A
okay.
grain of corn. These are
Corn
made.
oil.
These are basically made from corn that's ground up and pressed with water. That's it. It's a whole grain. So corn naturally has all the fat in one kernel that we need to absorb the other nutrients. We need fats in our diet in order to absorb the vitamins in our food. We don't need additional fats. There's the perfect amount of fat in corn, the perfect amount of fat in wheat, perfect amount of fat in an apple. It's a trace amount.
When you say plant-based diet, I think that is so great, because everything that we need, I mean, that food we need is in that food.
Right.
It has its own enzymes in there to break down whatever we need.
Everything.
And that,
It's
if we could
perfect.
just all, really latch onto that,
If we look at animals that are herbivores, like, for example, a horse or a cow, they're grazing, they're eating grass, they're eating an isolated food, one food, and they're able to grow big and perfectly strong, they're not obese, they don't have disease, and they're eating one thing. If we only ate potatoes, we would be, everyone in this room, if you're not already eating a protective diet, a variety of whole plant-based foods free of oils, sugars, nuts, and animal products, you would be much healthier if all you did was eat potatoes. Just straight up potatoes, like a horse eats grass. You could sustain, it would give you the energy you needed, you'd reverse disease. Now, I'm not suggesting that all you eat are potatoes because we can make our diet even better. We can eat half our plate of potatoes and half our plate of leafy greens or broccoli or asparagus. We don't need meats, we don't need oils, we don't need dairy. Those things are bringing down our health. Those things are promoting cancer. They're promoting the #1 killer of humans, which is heart disease. Every 40 seconds, someone dies of a heart attack. So, and we know how to stop that. It's nutritional intervention. Why aren't more people doing this? Does anyone know why more people aren't doing this?
Commercialize.
Marketing, advertising. You're confused. You're going in the grocery store this month and you're seeing hearts on everything and you're like, this is good for me. But it's not really. It's promoting product.
And that we give into our taste. We've been, just programmed, and we have to really re-educate our taste buds to enjoy the
That's a-
foods,
that's a
just
great
re-educate
comment. Yeah.
our taste buds.
I teach the 30-day taste bud reprogramming.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole food detox. It's basically your first 30 days on a protective diet. You're reprogramming your taste buds to appreciate whole foods. So when you start eating corn, just straight up and plain, to me and Jerry and my students that have been practicing for 30 days or longer, this plain corn tastes like candy. It's so sweet. And that's where we need to get. And it only takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get there. So I call it the 30-day taste bud reprogramming. It also, we cut the sugars out of the diet. So when you eat an apple or you eat strawberries, even if they're frozen into frosted strawberries you put on your oats in the morning, your mouth explodes. It's exciting, it's sweet. It's naturally sweet, but it starts to taste like sugar tasted to you before you gave up the sugar. So,
White
that's a
potatoes
great-
are better
My
than the
daughter, my
red,
little red.
I mean, sorry.
A little
Julie.
red, oh, go ahead.
Red potatoes are better than the white?
No,
No?
eat whatever potatoes you like. Whatever potatoes you are eating are perfect for your body.
Oh my God. I got
Sweet
rid somebody,
potatoes.
yeah.
Sweet potatoes are actually really beneficial if you are challenged with diabetes and you're on a program to reverse diabetes, a protective diet, a whole foods plant-based diet, free of oils and added fats like nuts. You want to include sweet potatoes over white potatoes. That's the only difference that I would change. You can still include whole grain pastas. Those are very low on the glycemic index compared to white potatoes. Just starting out, I would encourage more sweet potatoes over white potatoes. Now, I've had students that said I can't live without my white potatoes, and they were diabetic, but they were going from eating pizza and drive-through to eating white potatoes, and they still reversed their type 2 diabetes. So I'm not really that specific on what foods are best for what disease or what foods are ideal, as long as you're eating plant-based foods in a variety of different colors. I don't want you to eat just corn, just like the horse or the cow is just eating grass. They're not only eating grass. If they are grass-fed, they're getting clover, they're getting all sorts of different things that are growing in that grass, but it's all green. For humans, we need starch along with our green vegetables in order to have the energy to sustain the day. Average diet on a protective diet averages between 12 to 1,500 calories a day. More active person, they're adding more in. That's about 500 calories a meal, which is a nice sized meal when you're not eating oil. When we eat these enchiladas, I eat 4 or 5. That's still under my 500 calories. One tortilla is 50 calories. So I can eat a lot of these to meet my 500 calorie requirement of a meal. And I'm not a very active person. I'm not.
What
I'm in
can
my
you-
kitchen or at the computer.
You know, for breakfast, what can you use that with?
The tortilla?
Yeah, for breakfast, no, not a daily bread or
Traditionally,
bagels.
if you were Mexican, you would put your black beans, those unfried black beans, on the tortilla. Shredded lettuce, you could put whatever you want on here. You could use this as your bread. If you want to
How
sweeten
about
it.
spread? Anything spread? You can put a peanut butter, anything like that?
No nut butters, because the fats are going to affect your insulin reception. The
Yeah, I
fats
like peanut butter.
are going to affect your heart disease. No butter. And we laugh about this every time you're in my class, and you're laughing about pork or butter, but this is serious. If you have high cholesterol or high blood pressure, this could be your last chance to make a change. Just like my girlfriend. She was eating a healthier diet. She wasn't eating the butter anymore, but she was still using other foods and eating meat. And she went to bed one night and didn't get up the next day. So this is serious, and I want to stress that because I think this might be one of my last classes here, and I want to leave you guys with this information and understanding that you can change your health path completely. Look at what I did. My mother was just like I was. The doctors told me this is hereditary, so this is how it is for you. And I didn't believe it in my 20s that it was hereditary for me to be a 20-something-year-old obese with heart disease and a ton of other issues. I had chronic pain, I had plantar fasciitis, I had gout. All of these things were dietary related. But my doctor didn't tell me that because my doctor didn't know how to direct me to eat a plant-based diet. It wasn't something that was under their radar. It's not your doctor's job to teach you how to eat. It's your doctor's job to say, doctor, this is my problem. This hurts, or my cholesterol's high, and to medicate, to treat. That's what medical school teaches doctors. It's not their fault that they're not teaching you this, because that's not their job. Their job is to give you proper care through medical treatment. That means medicine. My job is to teach you how to eat, to change your health path so you don't need that medicine anymore. But when I'm saying that, I'm not saying go off your medicine and eat this. I'm saying eat this way and go see your doctor and get checked out, because you're gonna have to make medication adjustments if you're eating this way full time.
About shrimps, is that bad?
Shrimp are very high in saturated fat. They contribute to heart disease, diabetes, and inflammation in the body. Anything that comes from the sea
Yeah,
is
anything with
contaminated
shrimp.
with mercury and many other
Not good for gout.
contaminants.
Fish.
Also, our seas, I want to make a environmental comment here. The way that the seas are being fished right now, the seas are going to be devastated by 2050. There's going to be no more fish. And when I go through the Costco lanes and I see these stacks of tuna, like as if tuna is this never-ending resource that we have, it's not. The tuna fishermen are coming back with less and less tuna, and they're coming back with nets of small fish, and they're killing off those species. So we've got to stop with the fish. It's killing us, and it's killing our environment. And once the fish are all fished out of the seas, what are the birds going to eat? There's going to be no more birds. And then all of a sudden our planet is not going to be inhabitable. And our children, our grandchildren, their children, are they going to be able to have children? This is all the things we need to think about. And it's not on the daily news because it would really alarm people. And I don't mean to tell you this to alarm you, but this is information that's facts. There's scientists that have studied how much longer it's going to take us to get to the point where our seas don't have fish. And this is due to a lot more things than just fishing. It's due to factory farming. The runoff of the fertilizers is causing algae to grow, and that algae growth is actually dying and causing bacteria in the beds of the sea, and it causes the sea to die, and nothing can live there. So if we continue to produce animal products to eat, we're going to continue to die of a heart attack at a higher rate of every 40 seconds. We're going to deteriorate our seas and just wipe them out completely. Animals are going to die off. We're not going to be here because we're all going to have heart attacks. It's just all of these things. These bad foods that we're including in our diet are producing other bad effects environmentally as well. So if we change our diet to a protective diet, we're improving our environment and our footprint on the earth. We're improving our health so we can live longer and have a better quality of life. Look at me in my 20s. I feel like a teenager compared to what I feel like there just by eating healthy foods. I don't restrict my diet. I don't count calories. I don't count points and carbs. There, I was in the gym taking spin classes 5-6 times a week, obese, counting and restricting my intake. Now I can eat a dozen pack of El Milagros in a day and maintain a size 6. This is like dreams come true. I mean, seriously.
You're healthy.
And I feel amazing. And it's not all about weight loss, but that's a natural side effect of eating this way. It just happens automatically. It's a miracle to me. And my mother, who was in the same shoes as I was, fought me for many years about eating a plant-based diet. And when she finally did, she's almost 3 years into it, she reversed a blockage in her heart disease, her arthritis. She didn't tell me that her arthritis went away for months because she wasn't sure it was really gone. She couldn't believe that she could use her hands without pain. So she didn't want to tell me and then disappoint me that it came back, which cracks me up because it went away and it's gone for good.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What do you do when most people want dessert? They want ice cream, they want apple pie, they
Oh
want
yeah,
chocolate
we have
cake.
pies. I wish she still had the site up.
Yeah,
We have an
it's
apple pie, a cherry pie, a blueberry pie, a peach pie. These are all pies that you could make within under 30 minutes. All the ingredients are oats and fruit
That's
and
what I
applesauce.
wanted to ask you because I was going to use the nuts and I kept thinking, and my granddaughter said, no, Grandma, she said you can't use that. I said, oh, that's
Oh my gosh, you would love the premium subscription on Protective Diet. The recipes
How
on
much is
there.
that premium diet?
It's $29.97 a month, but we do have an affiliate program. So if you sign up, and anyone else here wants to sign up, have them sign up using your link, become an affiliate, and then you get reimbursed $9.99 for anyone that signs up using your link. So if you did this and other friends and family members wanted to do it, all you would need is 3 people to make your membership free.
I'm going to do that.
So we did this to make protective diet education and all the recipes and all the classes and the support we want it to be free for everyone, but we have to pay for the broadcast and the material and the hours of work in the kitchen. But, so the affiliate program is making it so that it's possible. We have a lot of students that are actually earning a monthly income off of telling their friends about this. They do little cooking demos in their church or in their kitchen or at their local health food store, and they tell them about a protective diet and what it did for their health. They're leading by example, just like I am. I'm just a person that is very creative in the kitchen, and I love to speak in front of people, so it works out for me. But if you enjoy doing that, you can use the affiliate program to actually earn a living teaching something that you love and enjoy that
So they're
helps
teaching
people.
what you're showing them, what they're learning through, because I used to do demos all the time, but it wasn't, and I knew about plant-based, but I was doing other things with nuts and things like that, with
Right.
oils and stuff.
So what they're doing is they might, I allow the free recipes to be demoed as much as they want, like the enchiladas today or any of the ones I've shown you. And then they can, on their handouts at their cooking demo, put their affiliate link on there and direct people for more guidance. So they can join my live interactive classes every Tuesday night. On Saturday morning, we have an interactive chat that I answer personal questions. I have a huge online community in Protective Diet Living. It's a Facebook group that's free if you want to enroll in that today. Join those people. Ask them, what is this protective diet education about? And they'll tell you. That is what gives you the support to succeed applying this day to day. You know, you eat this way to where it's hard. Sometimes you don't have that community support.
Right, you don't.
So our classroom gives you that, and I give you the reassurance that you're doing what's right for your body. But the premium recipes, the pies are awesome because you can eat them for breakfast, and it's hysterical when my students make these pies and then they serve them to their kids, and their kids are like, "We're eating pie for breakfast?" "Yes, we're eating pie." And they eat it up and they love it, and all it is oats and fruit. And then we have breakfast brownies, which are a chocolate brownie. They're delicious, and they're made out of all whole foods, oat-based, they're gluten-free. And those can be eaten for breakfast. I name things like breakfast brownies or breakfast pies so that people realize you can incorporate these desserts into mealtime. They're not on top of your already full belly. You can eat them at any time. They're all as health promoting, one recipe after the other. What other desserts? We have the frost. Oh, the new recipe of the week. We do one new recipe of the week at least. Sometimes we put out a second one to keep our students excited. And this week's recipe was whipped lemon fluff. And it's an imitation of, I don't know if you remember Dream Whip. It came in a packet.
Yeah.
And you put it into Jell-O and you mixed it and it
Yes.
made this fluffy Jell-O. That's what it's like.
Oh my
You put it in a
goodness.
dessert cup, or you can make a cake out of it, a little pie out of it.
It's delicious.
It sounds great.
And you could eat the whole thing. I did.
Yeah,
In
I got
testing-
2 bites.
We had to test it so many times. Well, I had to test it to come up with the recipe, and usually I give it to Jerry. He eats all the flops. Well, these were always successful, so I made all these different flavors, and it makes probably like 4 cups, 5 cups total. So I just kept eating it. I'm like, I can't stop eating it. It's so good. And it was okay. It was like 500 calories for the whole thing. So it was my dinner, but it was all health
Do
promoting.
you ever use tofu? Because I use tofu sometimes to make like cream cheese,
Yes.
or
there's
to
cream
make
cheese
a
recipe.
whipped topping.
Yes, and we did the French onion dip, I think, here once, didn't we?
Can I send that to you to see if it's okay?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I would love to send you the slicing cheese that I make and the melty cheese.
Yeah, just take my card, email
Yeah,
me.
I will do that. I'll send it to you
Sure.
just to see if it's an okay deal, because
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
really trying to clean out everything.
And if it is an okay recipe, join our Facebook group and share it in the group, because we have a students' files, which is recipes created by students, and they all put it together so they can use that as a resource to gain even more recipes. And it's fun. It's a
Yeah.
community that you're like, look at what I came up with, and it's fun to share. Go ahead.
What about avocado?
No avocado, because it's very high in saturated fat. And if we're trying to reverse heart disease or diabetes or inflammation in the body, we want to eliminate all the saturated fat.
I'm eating all the wrong one, the nuts, the avocado.
Yeah.
You know, and my
Yeah.
sugar, every time I eat, it shoots up. I get my insulin,
Yes.
I get.
If you cut the nuts out of your diet, you're going to get a better even sugar levels, especially the nut butters, peanut butter, almond butter. When I've worked with diabetics and they eat just a little bit of almond butter on their toast in the morning, their blood sugar, it's bad. And do you understand why? It's because that fat is clogging the receptor. The insulin can't bring that sugar in there to get that sugar to come down in the
So
blood.
I'd rather tortillas for
Tortillas are
cheese?
perfect.
cheese.
No cheese, saturated fat, no animal products. Get them out of your diet.
Pepper jack, pepper jack is not a underground product.
Sardines.
Peppers, maybe
Yeah.
peppers, pepper jack.
Just eat the peppers. Get rid of the jack.
I like that.
Your life depends on
Horchata,
it.
horchata,
Please.
horchata.
We get everything secondhand when we eat the meat and the cheese, because where does the cow, get his?
Right, that's another good
grass.
point, is
And- but we
when
get it
we're
secondhand.
eating cheese and you think it's good for you because it's higher in calcium, the cow is getting the calcium from its food source, like grass, leafy greens, the
Cottage
spinach,
cheese.
the beans, they're all high in calcium. The beans are like 20% calcium. We don't need to eat dairy for calcium. Plus, dairy is acidic in the body, promotes inflammation, and every time you eat acidic foods, your body has to correct it and alkalize it. And the way it does that is it uses the body's natural resources, like your bones, to alkalize that dairy. That's why we have such a high rate of osteoporosis in this country. This country's is the second leading country of consuming dairy. Yet we have the second highest rate of osteoporosis.
And so
That's-
we're number 2?
I think we're number 2. Number 2, I don't know, the statistics may have changed, but we're up there with
Who's
osteoporosis. I mean, how many seniors do you know that are afraid of a hip fracture? Think about it. You're walking around fearful you're gonna fall on the ice in Chicago in the winter because you might break your bones, they're so brittle. Cut the calcium, the dairy products, not the calcium, the dairy products out of your diet, the animal products out of your diet, and your bone density test will improve. It's because you're utilizing your own body's natural resources every time you eat acidic foods, animal products.
Calcium calcium. Calcium calcium.
Pills?
Supplement.
Eat your calcium in the form of leafy greens and beans.
Do you
Those
take any
pills don't work.
supplements?
I
Aside
take one
from-
supplement, only one supplement is necessary on a protective diet unless you are depleted in iron or D that you want to consult your doctor with. Vitamin B12, methyl B12 is the only vitamin that we need to add on a protective diet. On a standard American diet where they're eating animal products like beef, that's where they get their B12. Well, the reason that beef has B12 in it is because they're injecting the cows with a B12 vitamin. Because in nature, B12 is found in soil. So when a cow would eat grass, it would pull up some of the soil with the root of the grass, and it would eat the B12, and then it would get into its muscle tissue, and then someone on a standard diet would eat that muscle, and they'd get their B12. But the cows that people are eating, if you're going out to a steakhouse, even the nicest steakhouse here, they don't have grass-fed beef. You're eating corn-fed beef. Sometimes the beef are fed fish meal, a higher protein diet to grow it bigger faster. So we're taking all of that in, everything that cow ate, including the vitamin injection. So I'm just gonna skip over the filter of eating the beef from the vitamins that they injected in him, which aren't the quality of the methyl B12 that I take. And I take about 500 milligrams every other day. It's a
How about
lozenge.
Julie, wheat tortillas are as
B6.
good as
See, we
corn?
make
Wheat.
rotis every day, pretty much.
No wheat tortillas, not even the whole wheat, because they put oil in them.
Now, if we make it at home.
Yes,
it
the
at home.
tortillas?
Yeah.
Yeah, just skip the oil. Learn
Yeah.
how to make your crepes,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
your roti without oil.
Well, the,
Then they
That's
are-
fine, that's fine, that's wonderful.
Julie, the Doritos corn tortillas.
What kind?
Doritos.
Doritos.
They're fried in oil.
Are they by oil too?
Yeah, look at the ingredients. Make your own. These are cheap, much cheaper than buying those packaged fried tortillas. So you could make tons of them for what you paid $5 for a bag of those fried ones. And all it takes is cutting them up and baking them. You could become the tortilla baker in your house like Jerry.
Well,
Others-
we make our own yogurt pretty much every day. Then that's dairy too, so you're saying. we
I would
should
switch to
eliminate that?
soy milk. Whole soy milk, buy it at Trader Joe's, the one that all it contains is soybeans and water. Trader Joe's brand. It's very inexpensive per carton. I think it's under $2. And we make our own yogurt all the time too. and
So
we have
from soy milk?
from soy milk. And we just use the starter, like a yogurt packet starter once, like you do. And then we use a spoonful of the last batch, like you do, and keep making it. And soybeans are so good for you. So good for you. Soy milk is beautiful. It's reduces your risk of breast cancer by 50%, including 2 ounces of soy milk a day. So it's a good thing.
See, I was avoiding it because of my
Your thyroid.
problem.
Now with your thyroid, you don't want to eat your yogurt at the same time as the medication.
No, I don't do that. I take first thing in the morning. so
And then
I
you
don't-
wait.
Yeah.
I would wait like 3 hours before you.
I don't even eat anything, but I have my coffee like half an hour later.
Okay.
My
Aside
coffee with
from
cream and sugar.
beans, what can you take as your protein?
There's protein in corn. There's protein in spinach.
Oh, okay.
Spinach has the highest rate of protein of any food per calorie. So there's protein in all whole plant-based foods. We only need about between 6 to 10% of protein, and every single whole food has exactly that much. So we don't have to count.
I think it's just